Hello, 6th graders. Welcome to Big Ideas Math, Contract Math, Section 8.2, 2012 edition, Histograms Activity. Pause while you write Section 8.2, 2012 edition, Activity in your math notebook. Pause again while you write today's activity objective in your math notebook. Today's objective is understand how histograms show the different distributions of data. Copy the following key term, definition, and example exactly as it appears into your notebook. Histogram. A histogram is a bar graph that shows the frequency of data values in intervals of the same size. The height of a bar represents the frequency of the values in the interval. There are no spaces between bars. Today we'll be starting on page 193 in your Record and Practice Journal. Activity 1. Analyzing distributions. The graphs, histograms, show 4 different types of distributions. A skew distribution is the first one, and you'll see where most of the data is to one side. So you can see that in the first. Almost everything is to one side, and there's very little off to the other. A normal distribution is like climbing a mountain. Everything goes up and then everything goes down. A bimodal distribution is almost the exact opposite of a normal. Everything is in 2 peaks. A flat distribution doesn't have much of a peak at all. It's exactly as it's described. It's flat. So our job is to describe a real-life example of each distribution. So there's not one right answer for any of these, so I'm going to give you some suggestions of what these might be. You might have some ideas of your own that you are welcome to add. So let's take a look at the skew distribution. And think about something that might have a lot of lower values and not a lot of higher values. So that might be something like if you were pre-testing a class on something that they really hadn't had very much experience with. So there might be a lot of low scores and maybe a few students who had some high scores. So a pretest on unknown materials. And a normal distribution is exactly what it says. So it's exactly what you would expect to find in a normal population of something like the heights of 6th grade girls or 6th grade boys. So we're going to write that down as our example. Now, the bimodal distribution, it has 2 peaks on it. So that might be where you have a sample that is half boys and half girls, and one gender is a lot taller than the other, and so you would have 2 different peaks. So that's what we'll write down for our bimodal example. So that would be the heights of 6th grade boys and girls. And finally, a flat distribution would be something where there's just not a whole lot of difference in what you're finding among your population. So that might be something like the allowances of your classmates. So you might all get about the same amount of allowance every week. So we'll use that as our example. Moving on to letter B, it says describe the mean, median, and mode of each distribution. So notice it does not say to calculate the mean, median, and mode, which we can't do because there are no numbers on these graphs. So if you look at the skew distribution, you can tell that its mean is going to be toward the left because that's where most of the numbers are. And then its median is also going to be there because the center of that graph is also toward the left. So remember that your mean and median are both middle numbers, so they're going to be where the middle of your data is. So for skew, we're going to write that the mean and median are toward the left. It's impossible to tell where the mode is because remember that on a histogram, each bar doesn't represent one number, it represents a group of numbers. So the mode could be anywhere. The same is true on the normal distribution. Our mean and median are both middle numbers, so they're going to be in the middle of the graph, and the mode, again, could be anywhere, so go ahead and write that. The bimodal is kind of tricky because it seems really hard, but again, our mean and median are middle numbers, so they're going to be in the middle. So that's what makes sense. Our mode is probably going to be out here towards either one of our peaks on our graph. So somewhere on one of the mountaintops. So on one of the high points of the graph. So for the bimodal, the mean and median are going to be in the middle, and the mode is probably going to be on one of the high points. And finally, the flat is just like the normal in this sense because the mean and the median, middle numbers, they're going to be in the middle, but the mode could be just about anywhere. So we're going to write that one down. Now let's look at letter C. It says, in which distributions are the mean and median about equal? And explain your reasoning. So we kind of need to look at these pictures of our graphs again and see where our mean and median would be. So we know that in all of them, they're where the center of the data is, but the median is the absolute middle number. So with the skew graph, the mean is kind of toward the left, where the median is in the absolute middle. So it's less likely that the mean and the median are equal in the skew. In the rest of them, you can see that the mean and the median are more likely to be equal. So it's more likely that they are equal in the normal and the bimodal and the flat, because the skew distribution, the mean is pulled toward the left and the median is not pulled as much. Your job tonight will be to do letter D. It says, how did each type of distribution get its name? So most of them are fairly self-explanatory, and I've talked about it here, but if you're stuck on one of them, a good way to go about it would be to look up the meanings of some of these words, like bimodal and skew. You probably know what normal and flat mean, but look up If you're not sure what skew and bimodal mean, you can look those words up in the dictionary and see if that helps you understand why those distributions are named the way they are. Your assignment for this lesson is to complete Part D of Activity 1 on page 193 of your Record and Practice Journal. Show your work and be prepared to share during our next class. Please remember, to earn credit for viewing this flipped lesson, you must complete your exit slip, come to our next class prepared with the journal pages or other work from the flipped lesson completed, and be prepared with any work that was assigned in the flipped lesson completed. Be prepared with any questions you have for the teacher, and always have a good attitude. We'll see you next time in class.